Jaishankar, our External Affairs Minister, is currently addressing the press. Take a look at what he had to say.
Ambassador, I think it's been 3 very active, intensive days in Washington. Ambassador has listed out the meetings and interactions that I've had. I'm coming here after a gap of a few months. I was last in April. A lot of things have happened during that period. Of course, our contacts with the administrations have continued, partly because I meet my counterpart quite often on the sidelines of other gatherings. We talk to each other sometimes as well on the phone. There have been continuing contacts, but there is nothing like a visit where you spend time, meet face-to-face, talk, not just with your counterpart, but other secretaries and leading officials, because our relationship today is so broad and frankly so important that it is essential to have that face-to-face engagement on a regular basis. Overall, my sense is ties are in a good place. If you look, we've been, our trade's been doing well, investment flows are good, our political exchanges have been very solid. There might be some process issues on visas, but in terms of, actual movement of people, it's on a longer time frame again been quite positive. Education, student numbers are again strong. So there's really a lot that we can look at and credit ourselves with. But having said that, I think both sides have recognized this is a relationship of a great capability and potential. There's still a lot of room for it to grow. There are new avenues that we could look at. And part of the reason for the meeting which the ambassador organized with the National Science Foundation was really how do we look at science and technology and research and collaboration in critical and emerging technologies and really create some big broad avenues for further collaboration. I think there's a lot of enthusiasm I saw on the American side for that. He's walked you down some of my other meetings. But there's also a global context which is very important for my discussions. And, they reflected to a great deal my conversations at the UNGA as well. The world economy was already under a lot of stress because of the COVID. The Ukraine conflict and its repercussions have added to that. We've today, for a lot of countries, including us, higher energy costs, much higher energy costs are a source of obvious anxiety. We can see food inflation in some countries even face availability challenges. That's another big worry. There are justified concerns about fertilizers, access to fertilizers and trade in fertilizers. And remember, today's fertilizer problem is going to be tomorrow's food problem. Many countries are struggling with unsustainable debt. There are trade disruptions. So the big picture, quite honestly, in the world is not an optimistic picture. I think we have a very worried international community, and I saw that for myself in the UN General Assembly. So that too, where was a sort of a broader context in which we had discussions. Because today, if you look at the India-US relationship, it's not a narrow relationship only devoted to each other's gains. I think our relationship today impacts the rest of the world. definitely does the Indo-Pacific. There are a lot of countries who look to us individually or bilaterally for some part of the betterment which they hope for, and the solutions which the world is searching for in many respects. So that's the sort of broad sense which I want to give you. A bilateral, a very solid, positive, productive bilateral conversation, but framed in the context of larger global challenges, where there's a high degree of convergence on how we look at those challenges. We may articulate it a little bit differently. It's natural, our positions will not be identical, our priorities may sometimes be a little bit different. But again, the good part of the relationship is today that we understand that we have to make space for each other, and that we can work with each other even if we do not entirely agree on every aspect of every issue. So it was I would say, a very comfortable visit in that sense. I think we had some very good conversations. But I'd be happy to respond to any questions or comments or clarifications you may have.
Just to